So I want to talk about the Bernie bros. The one thing that connects women on the left and women on the right, I have found at least a lot of guest hosts, a lot of guests that have come on over the 3 years I've been here, is the abuse that we have all been subjected to by Bernie bros. It is by far, of anything I've ever done in my entire life, the most violent, the most misogynistic, the most sexist, the most harmful. My mother has cried over doctored photos Bernie brothers have sent me, and I'm just one story. He has a real problem, and I don't think that he's doing enough to tamper it down. If it were anyone, I'd say this has no representative of me. It's disgusting. It's vitriolic. And every time I see him talk about it, he's like, doesn't represent me, move on. You're an extremely powerful woman. How do you feel that he's attached to this deeply misogynistic, and I would go so far as to say violent, sector of people?
Yeah, you know, and I think internet culture can often be very toxic, and whether we are cognizant of it or not, it nearly always concentrates on women, people of color, queer people.
Definitely.
And we experience the brunt of it. And I think, you know, I think that to a certain extent, you know, we have to always reject hate, reject vitriol, and denounce that kind of behavior. Also, you know, we also know the amount of anonymous activity that happens on the internet, and that simply is difficult. It is difficult to control. When you have like a, you know, a Twitter handle with a bunch of numbers on it with 2 followers that are lobbying vitriol at you, we don't know where that comes from, but I know that it doesn't.
I think he's done enough to try and stop it.
You know, I think he works very hard. I think we send out messaging emails, and you know what? I've been subject to a lot of this stuff from all sorts of pockets from the internet. ICE and CBP officers targeted me on Facebook for attacks when I went to visit the border. They photoshopped, you know, people who are supposed to be protecting immigrants and children, photoshopped.
He's got to do more.
Horrendous.
He's got to stand up and say it every day if he needs to.
Yeah.
Stop this. We're not accepting it. It's not good for us.
Yeah.
We're coming back with more with Representative Alexandria.
Let's talk about you for a second, because you are a star yourself. It's almost like you're running. The media gives you
for re-election.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about president. And the media gives you a lot of attention, and yet you're very polarizing for some reason. Some people love you, and some people don't love you. I mean, we have that problem ourselves, but since you're, I mean, it goes with the territory, really, and we all accept it. But you trigger people. Why do you think you do that? And how does it manifest?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons. One, before people even knew who I was, like 5 minutes after I won my primary, it was the apocalypse on Fox News.
Yeah.
And
why?
I think it's because our political system is not designed for people like us. They're not designed for working people to succeed, for young people, for women, for people of color. It's not particularly welcoming. And historically, to have someone like that ascend, especially when I was running against someone who was the antithesis of those things.
To ascend so rapidly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's upending. But also, I think it's because our entire political system revolves, frankly, around rich men. And rich men are not the center of my universe. Working families are. And that is controversial.